Tonight, President Trump is expected to make his first trip to California since being elected.
And he's scheduled to be in the Southland just weeks from now.
KCON9 political reporter Bryan joins us now as to why the president is heading west. Dave?
Well, it's all about the border, actually, and that's not much of a surprise. A key issue for him. The Washington Post reporting that President Trump had planned to visit California earlier in his administration, but each time it was called off. Now, finally, 13 months after taking office, the president is expected to come to California to check on his border wall models and to raise money for the Republican Party.
You don't hear these things except for the fact that Trump became president.
More than a year into his first term as president, Donald Trump is now planning his first trip to California since taking office. The trip would take place in mid-March, according to a report in the Washington Post. What draws the president to Southern California are the proposed border wall models at the border in San Diego.
These prototypes are vitally important for the future of border security here in San Diego, as well as the southwest border.
And the border wall is also politically important to President Trump, since their construction was the single most memorable plank in his presidential campaign. The president's expected to personally inspect the 8 border wall prototypes, 30-foot high barriers, monuments of steel and concrete to Mr. Trump's imagination. He's pushing for a down payment of $18 billion to start building the wall, which Mexico has repeated again it won't pay for. Republican National Committeeman Sean Steele from California says he hopes Trump speaks to the dwindling middle class here in the state.
There's a lot of fear and concern with the middle class. The middle class is getting hammered. My guess is, my message would be, and my hope is, that Donald Trump talks to the middle class. That's the group that's most threatened in California.
Of course, in a state which Donald Trump lost by about 4 million votes, there will almost certainly be street demonstrations protesting his visit. The visit is expected to include an appearance in L.A. at an RNC fundraiser.
But the more he shows his face in California, the more he reminds people of what they don't like about Republicans.
And Claremont McKenna political science professor Jack Pitney says the visit doesn't exactly come at a time when Trump and California are feeling real friendly toward one another.
Just a few days ago, he talked about withdrawing the Border Patrol and Immigration and Customs Enforcement from the state, and in effect putting the state outside federal border protection. That's a pretty serious proposal, even if he wasn't serious about it. So this is a sign that he doesn't much care for most of the people here in California.
And the president's most recent trips to California when he was candidate Trump haven't always worked out well either, with protesters clashing with police in Burlingame, California, south of San Francisco, outside a meeting of the state Republican convention in 2016. Trump's motorcade was forced to pull off onto the shoulder of the 101 freeway, and he jumped out and was led down a hill and into a back entrance of the meeting location, surrounded by his security officers. He even joked about it at the convention.
That was not the easiest entrance I've ever made. My wife called. She said, there are helicopters following you, and we did, and then we went under a fence and through a fence, and oh boy, I felt like I was crossing the border, actually. You know, it's true. I was crossing the border.
Steele says bring on the protest demonstrations as long as they're peaceful. But he says if they take a violent turn, that will only help Trump.
So if you want to be very pragmatic about it, the bigger, the nastier the demonstrations, the better it is for our team.
Now, the Post report points out this would also be Donald Trump's first visit to the Mexican border since he became president, an area he regularly refers to as dangerous and lawless. However, the paper points out that several U.S. cities along the Mexican border, including San Diego, have some of the lowest urban crime rates in the country. Lena, back to you.